I'm just going to kick us off here by welcoming everyone tonight. My name is Michelle Singer. I'm the Adult Programs Coordinator for the Kellogg-Hubbard Library, and we're so happy to have Dawn Holtz with us here tonight. I've had the pleasure of working with Dawn multiple times, and when she suggested a happy cafe, I think you can all imagine why I was very easily said, of course, that would be the best thing I can think of right now. So we're so glad to have her tonight. Dawn, it's all yours, except for I will say we are recording this event. So if you know of someone who couldn't be here tonight or you want to come back to this, it'll be available on the Kellogg-Hubbard Library website. Dawn will also have it. So you have the recording available to you as well. And we will take questions in the chat that Dawn will get to later. And other than that, the floor is yours.
And yeah, Michelle, will you see that? Because I actually can't see the chat right now.
Yeah, yes, I will see the chat.
I'm not sure why, but okay. So you'll let me know. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, I'm relatively new to Zoom, so I'm still figuring out a lot of things, but Michelle's been a great sport in helping me out with that. So I'll just say thank you to Michelle so much for having me on to do this. I'm really excited to do this right now. I think it's a good time to do it for everybody. Normally we do these in person, and it is sometimes at a cafe. We had one here outside in our tent over the summer. So this is my first one on Zoom. So we'll see how it goes. But the way it works is I'm gonna just spend about 20-25 minutes kind of going through some of the kind of research and facts with you about happiness and a little bit about where a lot of this information is coming from. And then the second portion is more of a open style cafe type discussion, you know, brew yourself a cup of tea, if you like, coffee, whatever. Whatever you're into there. And then we'll, you know, kind of have an open discussion about some of the stuff that we've just, that I've gone through here. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of say, you know, thanks for taking the time to do this. It's really important to kind of take care of ourselves, especially right now. And, you know, a happy cafe and learning a little bit more about happiness, I think is such a great way to do that. So, so I always kind of like to open this up with this really lovely quote from the Dalai Lama. Happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions. So, you know, there's a lot we can do to cultivate more happiness in our lives as well as with others. So, and I'm going to just touch on some very light things here, but hopefully you'll come away with a little bit more tools in the toolbox. So, so the first thing I'd like to do is just kind of have everybody just kind of settle in with 3 breaths. And I like to kind of think about it as you breathe in, you know, kind of try to take in all the love and support and happiness in this group of people that we have together tonight. And then when you breathe out, you know, just breathe out your offering to this group of compassion, happiness, joy, whatever you're kind of feeling, maybe your motivation for being here. So we're going to kind of just take 3 nice, deep, long breaths together. And really, you know, I don't want to sell this, but it really is more beneficial if you really kind of breathe in and breathe out. And it's fine to make a sound when you breathe out. The louder, the better. So let's just kind of take 3 nice, deep breaths together. All right. And that also kind of helps just kind of bring us into the space and relax us a little bit. So, okay, so with that, I'm going to get going. So I've got some slides I'm going to share with you here, hopefully. There we go. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of put all this in one spot for you, and I'll give you some information at the end, some contact information, if you want more of this information. The reason I've got this here is I want you to know where a lot of this information is coming from. So if you want to go looking for it yourself, you can. And also, if if you go looking on Action for Happiness, you're not going to find a lot of this information. You'll find some, but a lot, this is my own personal kind of compilation of a lot of different trainings that I've had put together. So, so I want to just make sure that you kind of know where it's all coming from. So Action for Happiness is an organization that I've done some work with. I'm a registered volunteer facilitator and group leader for Happy Cafes, happiness courses, and then some online groups. So, and that's where the Happy Cafe idea comes from, is Action for Happiness. So, and some of the information that is in here tonight, because this is a Happy Cafe, will be Action for Happiness, but some of it is not. So, and I'll make sure to tell you which is which. So a lot of the information too tonight is going to come from a training I just completed fairly recently, positive neuroplasticity training with Dr. Rick Hansen. He's a psychologist. He's also part of the Greater Good Science Center. He's an amazing teacher. He's doing a lot of really interesting work right now around positivity and neuroplasticity, and I kind of call him like the brain guru. And then compassion cultivation training through the Compassion Institute. Another great resource. They really focus obviously on compassion, but primarily self-compassion. So there's a lot of good information on their site. Then Science of Happiness, the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley, they have some happiness research labs, and they offer a few different courses. But one of the courses I took with them was Science of Happiness, really interesting stuff to kind of dig a little bit deeper. And then they have all kinds of research going on right now. A lot of this stuff is still pretty young research. So, just I would look them up, pay attention to them. They're doing a lot of really interesting stuff. And then some of the work is from positive psychology. The father of that is Martin Seligman. He's also, he's the head of the Penn State's Positive Psychology Center. And he kind of got very interested in looking at psychology from the other side. Typically we look at it, at least here in the West, especially, from more someone's having a problem, let's address it, and he kind of said, well, wait, but what about people that like aren't having problems or have really good solid well-being? Like, what's going on with them? So he kind of started this whole positive psychology movement, and you just Google his name, all kinds of stuff will come up. And then my own personal training in Tibetan Buddhism, and I don't mean that from necessarily the spiritual side. Tibetan Buddhism dives pretty heavily into the mind and mental factors. So some of that is incorporated into this. This is not a Buddhist program necessarily. It's not spiritual at all. It's just kind of pulling from that some of the information about how the mind functions. And then a wonderful teacher I've had the pleasure to take a few courses with, Dr. Leah Weiss. She's out at Stanford. She's also a facilitator for Compassion Institute. She's doing some really amazing work right now on resilience. And yeah, some resilience training. So, and I'll share some of her stuff with you a little bit later too. She's got some really good stuff. And I'm just noticing, I'm sorry, I'm gonna click out of here for 1 second. I'm hoping I'm on well, we'll just see. Okay, so I'm noticing something at the bottom is cut off, so hopefully I'm on the right. So I'm going to focus primarily for a minute on Action for Happiness, again, because this is a happiness cafe. But so what is Action for Happiness? Action for Happiness is a movement of people committed to building happier and more caring society. they, they bring people together from all different walks of life. They draw from a lot of scientific research. They work with the Greater Good Science Center. They have a lot of interesting stuff. They have members all around the world. It was started in the UK, and that's pretty heavily where it's concentrated right now. There's only a couple groups in the States that I know of at the moment, but they're working on that. And they do some really neat stuff. Their website's there at the bottom, actionforhappiness.org. They do a monthly calendar that each day gives you, kind of an action that you can do to cultivate happiness. And then each month has a theme. I think November is New Ways November. So every day is kind of some sort of action around maybe doing something new that bringing something new into your life. And the big thing to know about them too is, they are not religious, political affiliation of any kind. The Dalai Lama is their patron, and all that means is that he very much supports the work they're doing around trying to get people to kind of cultivate happiness a little bit more on a regular basis. So they're a really cool organization. There's lots of opportunities to get involved with them if you're interested. And you can run a happy cafe in your own area if that's something of interest to you. But that's a great resource. So, and they do, if you're a teacher, they have some stuff to do with kids as well. So it's really great. And then, so the main thing they ask you to take a pledge, which is basically that you will try to create more happiness in the world around you. That's it. And then they kind of ask you, I like this little thing they had on their website, so I put it in here, to be loving, compassionate, and true, a giver of joy and a healer of sorrow, creator of a new tomorrow. So making the happiness of all your wish, your compass, and your goal. So that's kind of guiding everything you're doing, not just happiness for ourselves. So that's just a little information about Action for Happiness. So this is kind of a little fun part. Just take a moment and think about, if you had to describe happiness to someone who, had no clue of what it was, what would you say? How would you define it? And then, the second part of that question is, what does it mean to you? So I'll give you a minute to just kind of think about that for yourself. If you want to write something down, you can. And I'll share with you the definition, the technical definition that the Happiness Research Lab at Greater Good Science Center came up with, is this. So the experience of joy, contentment, or positive well-being combined with a sense of a good, meaningful, and worthwhile life. So maybe, in your definition, you had some of that in there, maybe not. And they're not saying that is all that happiness is. They're just, when trying to kind of give it a definition, that's what they've come up with, to kind of encompass everything. And then they break it down a little further to where there's two main types of happiness. So you have your eudaimonic happiness, and then you have hedonic happiness. And maybe you've heard of the hedonic treadmill. So that is, that's like, oh, I got the really great job and I'm so happy and everything's going to be awesome. And then 2 years into the job, you're like, and then, okay, I'm leaving and now I got a new job. And, so you're constantly kind of riding these waves of happiness. And so hedonic is more pleasure and enjoyment seeking. So that's going to be more the external stuff. And then eudaimonic is more virtual, self-actualization, kind of meaning, purpose. It's kind of, I like to say it's more the happiness that's happening in here. And it's important to note that both of those are means to happiness. One is not wrong. It's just one is short term and one is longer lasting. And ideally what they're finding through research is a good healthy balance of both is what you want. So it's not wrong to like go after the chocolate that I eat almost every single night. That brings me happiness. So, do that, but also, you know, there are things that we should do, you know, that we can do to cultivate it at a deeper level. So I found that kind of interesting and wanted to share that with you all. Um, and then just a few facts. You know, again, a lot of this comes from, you know, those resources that I shared with you at the beginning. But, you know, a few important things to know is being happy does not mean that you never feel unhappy or that you're just all the time. You know, it's like things are going to happen, as we've seen. We're going to get viruses. We're gonna, you know, we're gonna have things that we're not going to be able to have Thanksgiving with our family if you live here in Vermont. You know, and you know, there's all kinds of things that are going to happen. So it doesn't mean that you can't ever feel unhappy. It just means that, you know, those things aren't going to take you down so far every time. And something that's really important, and you've probably heard of this, is the negativity bias. This is something that is in our brain. It is inherent, it is built in, it is a survival mechanism, and it's very strong. So I kind of like to say for every one negative, you need almost two positive to kind of counterbalance that, counteract that negativity bias. And, you know, the paper tiger thing you see there is, you know, kind of way back in the olden days when, you know, our brains were kind of first developing, we had the survival mechanism was incredibly strong because we didn't, you know, we were hunter gatherers looking for food. We didn't know if a tiger was going to jump out and attack us, you know, out of the brush. And what's interesting is while we know that's very likely not going to happen to us now, that mechanism in our brain is still very much alive and well and waiting. So you know, it's kind of like we think there's all these tigers, but really there's nothing. It's just paper tigers. So there's not, you know, we can kind of go, okay, like I'm actually okay. And then kind of work from there. So you do need to kind of, there are some things you need to do to kind of counteract that negativity bias. And then, you know, another thing is to think about, what are you feeding? You know, I'll give you the very short version. You can look it up if you want the deeper version, but there's a Native American folktale about a grandmother. You know, they're all kind of sitting around the fire, and the grandmother is always very wise, very serene, very just kind of peaceful. And one of the grandkids asks, you know, how are you always so, you're just always calm no matter what? And she answers that, you know, one day she realized that she had two wolves living inside of her, a wolf of love and a wolf of hate. And she decided from that point on that she was only going to feed the wolf of love, because whichever one she fed was going to be stronger. So it's really interesting to just in your actions as you go throughout the day, think about, okay, which one am I feeding here? And sometimes we think we're feeding the wolf of love, but we might actually be feeding the wolf of hate if it's coming from, you know, a real kind of negative space in our brain. So I found that analogy really helpful. I often kind of stop and go, okay, wait, which one am I feeding here? So use it if you like. And then another important thing is happiness is contagious. So this is the concept of mirror neurons. This is the concept of, you know, if I'm like, and I'm happy and I'm talking, you know, most likely you're going to smile back at me. I just saw someone smile when I did that. So that's mirror neurons at play. And they can work the other way too. If I'm this and I'm, you know, you're at the very least going to scrunch your eyebrows, and probably you might even feel a little bit of the negativity I'm feeling. So that's really important to think about. Our happiness influences the people that we know, and then they go and influence the people they know, and so on and so on and so on. So mirror neurons are always at play. You'd have to be really incredibly mindful to be able to shut those off when you're face to face with someone. And then, you know, these are a few numbers I thought were very interesting. And they're rough estimates, but what they have found is that, you know, on the scale of happiness, 50% is your genetic set point. So that's what you come into the world with, you're born with. 40% can be changed by intentional activity that you do or don't do. That's a big number. And what they found is only 10% is circumstantial. So, if you think, oh God, my world would be so much better if I didn't have this, this, and this, and this, or if I had this, this, and this. That really only accounts for about 10% of your happiness. And again, rough numbers here, but so roughly 40 to 50% is in your control, and that's a pretty big number. I think that's incredibly encouraging. And then the whole science of neuroplasticity, neuroplasticity is basically, we can change our brains. We can kind of reroute things, we can code things, we can uncode things. It does take some effort and it takes time, but you can do it. And there's a famous research physicist who, he says neurons that fire together wire together. So an example of this would be if you were having a really positive experience, whatever it be, your lunch with your best friend, whatever it is, you're having a really positive experience in that moment. You can stop and kind of really take that in a very intentional way. And what will happen is you will basically be kind of coding it into your brain. And eventually over time, it takes a while, but over time, that will become the default setting in your brain. So, and I don't always like to share this piece of information because it's a little bit discouraging, but the negativity bias is pretty strong and often feels like the default. So you've really got to kind of fight back a little bit with that. And the two websites at the bottom there, again, are where a lot of these facts come from. And if you want to dig deeper on them, you can. So that's that. And then just some of the benefits of happiness is, longer life. They've done a lot of research studies that have shown life is drastically lengthened when you're actively cultivating happiness and you're in a good space. And that probably is because of, the second point here, which is happiness. Active cultivation of happiness increases cardiac health. It increases your immune system. It lowers cortisol levels, which is the chemical responsible for stress. So those are really, that's pretty good reasons and enough right there. But if you want more, there's, the other thing is there's no high highs and low lows. You're stable. So you don't ride that like, everything's great. And then 3 days later, you're like, oh, I'm having a hard day. And, you're just kind of stable no matter what happens. And His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, says true ultimate happiness is constant and is stable no matter what. So that's a pretty good motivator too. And then better social health and benefits, social benefits. So, overall, imagine if we all were kind of walking around at our best, even 90% of the time or 60% of the time, it'd be a little bit of a different world, I think. So, so that's another reason to, kind of work at this. And then relationship benefits, and not just romantic partners. It could be family, it could be friends, it could be people you work with. It's interesting to think too, if we all have that person either at work or school or wherever we are. There's somebody that just gets under your skin a little bit, and if you're riding kind of that stable wave, that stable line, it's not a problem, no problem. And then increased creativity and innovation. You might discover you're an amazing artist or or singer or whatever, because what happens again, you're letting go of that cortisol. It's not being released on a regular basis, and it kind of opens up new pathways in the brain. And then greater resiliency, which I think is something that is really starting to be studied a lot right now, especially right now with this pandemic that's happening. They're really taking a look at people's resilience. And I have a site I'll share with you at the end, a quiz you can take. It's kind of meant, it's my teacher, one of my teachers created it. It's really great. It's kind of meant more for workplaces, but you take it and what she's done is kind of through her research, she's come up with kind of 9 resilient typologies, and you kind of see where you're at in that, which one you are, and then it kind of gives you like some clues as to, again, primarily it's for work, but you can use it, you know, she recommends using it in any way. It kind of tells you like what might be helpful to you in a stressful situation, and whatnot. So I'll share that with you at the end. It should be on here, but I think I might be working off my old presentation here. So, so let's move on. Okay, and then the how. So this is, again, this is from Action for Happiness, but this is a crossover in some of the other things. This is through some scientific research and study, what they have found is people who are kind of self-reporting at high levels of happiness, this is kind of some of the 10 keys that they found that are going on in their lives. And they happen to spell out the acronym Great Dream. So, and I'm going to come back to this slide when we do the cafe portion, because, you know, it's nice prompts, but you can kind of see, you know, these are all action items. Do things for others, connect with people, take care of your body, live life mindfully, keep learning new things. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but you know, you can kind of see there what's going on, and get some ideas. In the calendars I was telling you about, that they do kind of directly link to these items here. So so we'll come back to that. I'll put that up on the screen when we do the discussion. And then these are just some prompts I created. I just took the first letters, some questions we can use during the discussion piece if we want, you know, if it's related to giving, why do you think it's important? What do you do to help others? And so on. And we can kind of toggle back and forth here, but, and then, yeah, thank you for listening. And I can see now I am working off my old presentation. I apologize for that. This should be a little bit different, but I'll pull up the other one. But the important stuff is still here. So I just want to say thanks for kind of listening and coming and sharing the time. And I'm interested to hear what you all have to say and some ideas you might have. And then, you know, a big thank you truly for being willing to explore happiness, because it's really important. And, you know, I just was telling a friend tonight, I think it's kind of become my personal mission to get people to talk about this stuff more and work with it and really kind of try to see if we can help raise each other up. And now is such a perfect time for it too. So, so thank you. And thank you all for being you and doing everything you do in the world. And I think let me just go to the other, part here, because here we go. This is the last screen on the other one. This is the actual presentation I was supposed to be using. So the other thing I wanted to let you all know is there's some contact information. So my partner and I will be running in January. It will run for 3 months. January, February, and March. We'll meet once a month. This is going to be through Action for Happiness. And I put the link in the chat at the beginning of the before we started here. So if you want to sign up for that, it's called the 10 Keys group. And what it is each month, whatever the theme is for that month through Action for Happiness, we'll kind of work around that theme, but we'll work with the 10 keys, and it'll really just be, they'll send us some prompts for us to all discuss, but it's an open discussion around the 10 keys. You can sign up at that link. If you're too far away, it might tell you you can't join. I'm not sure quite how they're doing the geographics, but I know for sure if you're in Vermont, you should be able to sign up for it. And if not, and you really want to do it, shoot me an email, and we could probably figure out a way to get you into the group if you want to do it. We have a few people signed up already. It's also on the Action for Happiness website. If you go to, there's a tab that says groups. So if you go there and look under Vermont, you'll find us. And then there's my personal email address there. So if something tonight jumped out at you and you're like, ooh, I really want to know more about that, reach out, no problem. I'm happy to share with you whatever I can. I'm also I've started my own kind of side project called Advaita here. So where I'm happy to come and I have some different presentations around happiness. I'm working on more that are like, I have something that's going to be on primarily just resilience. So, if you know of somebody or you have a workplace where you might think this stuff might be helpful, happy to do it as well. And again, just share any of this information. So that's my personal email. I don't have a website yet for Advaita, but I'm working on it. And then I am also the director here at Milarepa Center, a Tibetan Buddhist retreat center. If you have any interest in that, how some of this stuff ties in, that's our website there. You can check us out. You can reach me through that as well. So either one of those ways are there. And if it's okay with you all, I just want to jump back to this slide because this is the one we were supposed to have. Excuse me, here. So here at the bottom, there's that resilience typology quiz I was telling you about. So if you want to copy that link, if you're interested in taking that self-assessment to kind of see what your resilience type might be, it's pretty interesting. It gives you a pretty in-depth report. She did a very nice job with that. So something to kind of a fun thing, and you can share it with folks in your workplace too, if you'd like. Okay, so I'm going to put this one back up for now, just so we have some prompts. But I'd like to open it up and for some discussion, and if folks want to share your thoughts or whatnot, I'd like to do that. So you can unmute yourself, and maybe when you unmute yourself, just if you don't mind, share your name and where you're from. And
hello.
Hi, Val.
Hi, I'm Val, and I'm in St. Johnsbury. And I thought maybe, Dawn, if you could take a minute to talk more about, because this is a new idea for me too, that was just recently brought to my attention this week. This idea that when we are happy, when we're feeling joyful, that we can take, to make sure that you take a moment and you really are conscious of how am I feeling right now? Like, what am I smelling? What am I seeing? And because I've always heard you got to work on change. I understand the pathways and I had a hard time understanding, how do I change these pathways? I'm stuck.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the downside of neuroplasticity, is you can't see it happening, right? But it is happening. And the way you'll know is with time. Again, it does take time. This is definitely no quick fix here, but you'll see that it will start to become your default mode. And it could be as simple as some habit changes. You know, you see a person that habitually brings up in you, you know, and then all of a sudden, maybe after, I don't know, a few months of this work, you see the person and you're like, like, that's how you know it's working. I can first, I've had that experience. So, and, you know, another thing they say in the neuroplasticity world, you know, is evidence of, as evidence of like any physical change is evidence of neural change. So, and or any evidence of like a mental change is definite evidence of neural change. It means you have changed that neural circuitry that's going on there. And you know, it's interesting that you say that, Val. I do just want to share this other slide because I was on the wrong presentation, which I apologize, you guys didn't get to see this, but this is really interesting stuff that, especially those of you, I know we have some teachers on the call, so those of you that are teachers, there is a protein in our brain. It's called brain-derived neurotrophic factors, B.D.N.F for short. And it's the protein in our brain that is crucial for like learning and adaptability. And my partner is a teacher, so she tells me a lot of the stuff, you know, that they're doing at school. And she came home one day and was telling me about how some program they're doing kind of had kids like playing a little bit, like doing playful things before the teacher would start teaching. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Whoever thought of that knows something about this. Playfulness is a really interesting thing. And there's a guy, I can't remember his name, but if you Google it, you'll find him. He's doing all kinds of research on this right now. But what's happening is playfulness, whatever that means, you know, it could be riding your bike. It doesn't mean you have to be like goofy and silly or whatever, but that happens to be my MO, but you know, to each their own. But what's happening is you're priming your nervous system. And the nervous system's job is to learn. So, you know, if you know you're going to go to have that stressful family dinner or whatever it is, go play for 20 minutes before or 15 minutes before or whatever, you know, kind of prime that nervous system. And happiness will increase with playfulness, because what's happening is you're building that protein in your body. And then if you're following that up with doing some of these, you know, techniques that you can do, that's what you're teaching your nervous system. So, and you know, a little interesting thing here is building B.D.N.F promotes neurogenesis, which is the birth of new neurons, and synaptic formation, which is connecting all those circuits. So it's really important. And then also B.D.N.F is very protective of neurons. So kind of once you've kind of built the new ways, it's protected. And then this is something interesting that I thought was very interesting. If you've noticed, people who tend to be more playful or more kind of, you know, relaxed or whatever, they're very prone to learning new things. That it's kind of like they love it, like they're interested in a lot of things, you know. So kind of some helpful information there. I don't know if that helps answer a little bit of your question, but I'll go back to this one now so we have that up. But what else do we have? And this is a discussion, so you can, you know, we can all kind of participate. And
hi, everyone. My name's Nina. I'm in California, and I'm noticing that I'm the only one with like natural sunlight on my screen right now. So yeah, so the sun hasn't come down quite yet here. Anyway, and I'm noticing that I'm feeling grateful and I'm generating, you know, gratitude in me and some happiness. So yeah, I think something that's interesting, I mean, I really appreciate this talk, and this is the first Happiness Cafe I've attended. So, you know, thanks for having me. And the default mode network, I learned about that I don't know, a couple of years ago. And I think the most interesting thing for me about it was how they discovered it, which was, I think they were doing a study on something else. Like they were like sticking people in an MRI machine to like do something else. Like, here, look at these pictures and we'll see what happens. And in between, they were like, oh, do nothing, right? Just sit in there, we're not ready yet, right? And I think that someone thought like, oh, it would be interesting to look at what nothing looks like, right? And this was like the default mode network was what like lit up, right? Something that when we think we're doing nothing, or we think we're like, our mind is just blank, or, you know, we're just kind of daydreaming, actually very specific centers, when we're unintentional, right? Very specific centers are lighting up. And that got me to think like, you know, I might not consciously be aware of it, but I could be contributing to unhappiness, right? By having like this center come up that's focused on negativity automatically, or a center comes up that's focused on like comparison, right? And evaluation. And so I don't know, I feel like with physical things, we can conceptualize like work a lot more like, oh, if I want to get stronger, I go to the gym, I work out, I schedule it, I put effort into it. And I think sometimes with the mind, it's harder to think about things that way. But you know, I guess it's just kind of like, I guess for me, like trusting, like I'm happy to have all this research, right? That kind of does show that like you can change and you are doing something positive for yourself. And I guess for me, the biggest thing has been generating mindfulness, because if you don't notice, or for me, if I don't notice when my mind is doing that, if I don't notice that, if I don't catch that, right, when I'm kind of falling into that, you know, the comparisons, or just like focusing on, you know, catastrophizing, or like, you know, a sense of, just negativity, I guess. If I don't notice that, then I can't really combat it or have a conversation with it or choose to think about something else, or, you know, even just intentionally focus on, you know, focus on my breath, right? Rather than kind of letting those thoughts come, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing. That's interesting. Yeah, there's so, like Nina said, there's so many interesting studies being done. I mean, they're hooking up brains to monks meditating, to, I mean, just all kinds of stuff. So this really is a pretty young science still. So I think we're just starting to kind of see the tips of it, you know. So I think it'll be fascinating to watch it unfold over the next however long and that we get to. And so thanks for sharing, Nina. Yeah. What else? Is anyone using these prompts? Because if not, I'll stop my screen sharing so I can actually see all of you, because I can really only see about 3 of you right now. And I'd love to see everyone's faces. One thing I learned that I love about Zoom is I'm not looking at people like this, you know, like I get to actually see your smiles, and that's really nice. So is everyone okay if I turn off the prompts? Seems like it, so I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah, and I apologize for not using the prompts. I'm on my phone right now, so it's like I can't really. It's all very small. So
yeah. What else? Anyone want to share anything else or thoughts?
I have another. Oh, sorry. You go.
I don't want to put you on the spot, Dawn, but I do want to say I'm excited by the prospect of you sharing with me things that you imagine would be helpful in the classroom with my 5th graders. So yeah, we're definitely talking about gratitude and happiness. But yeah, I definitely want to get into that more with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Were you going to say something else, Val?
Well, I just wanted to say it doesn't really have to do with that, but another tip that recently has really helped me, because even though I meditate and I try to, when I start to spiral down, I try to do the breathing, but a lot of times it doesn't do it for me if I'm really having a hard time. And a recommendation that was told to me was to actually just say, like, tell yourself, stop, go set a timer for 15 minutes, and for 15 minutes, go do something that you enjoy, that's going to totally change the situation.
Yeah.
You know, that will be totally engrossing, and you won't be able to have those thoughts. And then after 15 minutes, you go back to doing whatever you're doing. But every time that, you know, you start to spiral, and so like that's been really helpful for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say, you know, the mindfulness movement, and I'm kind of speaking more from the spiritual side of it. And I am a Buddhist and I fully believe in all that stuff, but I do think it has a little bit made people feel like really the only way you can be kind of happy, you know, you have to be kind of zen and mindful and you know, and it's like that doesn't work for everybody. In fact, for some people, that's totally the wrong way to go. It especially those who have suffered like any kind of PTSD or anything like that. Meditation can be the worst thing you could do. So it's really important to kind of figure out what works for you and and embrace it. And that's why I like, you know, I do, one of the things I do like about the Action for Happiness stuff is they give you all kinds of ideas. I mean, pick one, you know, like, and try it. And if you don't like it, throw it away and try another one, you know, like it's really just don't stop trying. That's the big thing. I mean, I can tell you from personal experience, and Nina, you know, who lived here with me at Miller Center, I think you can say this too. Like those of us who, you know, when we're sitting meditating for 45 minutes, I'm not especially feeling very happy in that moment. Like my back hurts, my knees hurt. Like, you know, I mean, my mind might be peaceful, but you know, but there's a lot more going on there, you know. So I think it's really important to think about figuring out what works for you and going with it. I love riding my bike. I mean, I love it. It makes me feel so happy. And Kim, I can't see you on my screen. You're probably on another page, but oh, there she is. There she is. She just sent me this really sweet email the other day that said she passed me on the road riding my bike, and she said, "You were just so like," and she said, "It just made me feel really good." And it's really funny you sent me that email because I literally verbatim sent that same email to my friend who I saw riding her bike the week before. Like, so, I mean, this I like almost cried when I saw my friend Janet. The sun was shining, her helmet was all crooked, and she was just totally blissed out. Like, I mean, so I think it's really important to find, you know, what works for you and dig deep with it, you know. So
Hey,
yeah.
Dawn,
Yeah.
this is Kim.
Hi, Kim.
I want to tell you, your helmet wasn't just crooked, but it was on backwards. So that was one thing that sort of got me laughing and feeling happy about you. But I also wanted to say a little something. Clearly, I'm not in California. It's getting darker in my room here every minute. But playfulness, I think that's just so interesting.
Yeah.
I'm a teacher in Newberry, and any of you that have a kid in the school or know people dealing with school right now, it's multi-layered with this COVID thing. It's almost, you know, probably 100 years from now, we can draw comic strips about it. But a new role that I have in the school is standing out front for all the buses to come and all the kids that are dropped off with their parents. And, you know, you can see they're tussling in the car and trying to put their backpacks on, and it's cold now, and forgetting their masks, they have to run back. But I'll tell you, it's the best part of my day because I know each kid by name, and I always try to be a little silly with them, and I have to take their temperature and ask them the 16 COVID questions and everything else. But it's like, I so look forward to it. And every kid has a little sense of humor that I try to, you know, stir up a bit. And I'm being playful, they're being playful. And after that half hour, I just feel like my day is off to a real buoyant start. And it's much better than going to your office and checking email or any of those things. So being playful is key for me.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Well, that was some nice love we just got to see there on the screen. What else? Well, you all are smiling, so that's really nice. Well, Michelle, I thought we'd need more time, but this is a quiet group, so.
Hello.
Hey, Dawn, maybe you should ask us a question. Ask us some kind of question, because it's hard when it's just open for us to think about anything to say.
Okay, yeah, I think someone was
That would help me.
gonna say something though. Who?
Yes, let me turn on the video. Hello.
Jackie, your voice is very deep.
Yes, my name's Jackie. No, my name's Harry. I am living at Neurotrophic Center. And I was thinking about many years ago, I think it was the Zen teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, had said, smile at others because they're smiling back inside, even if they aren't physically smiling. And I always thought that's kind of cool. Like, I'm gonna like smile at random people and inside they're still smiling. But then it's interesting that with the mirror neurons, the research on that, it's kind of showing that, wow, like he was onto something, I feel like. And I just think it's cool that research is being done in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of reinforces that thinking, like, oh, I can influence others with my happiness just by smiling at them. And even if they're not in the mood, their brain is responding in a positive way.
Right.
It really doesn't take much effort to have that influence, which I think is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And the important thing to remember about mirror neurons is it works both ways, right? So this is one thing, this is another thing, right? So like even it works negatively too. So if you can't bring yourself, if your day is so bad or whatever, that you can't bring yourself to give one of these, at least don't give this. Like, cause
Yeah.
you are almost kind of coding that into someone else's brain. So
Yeah.
it's better to just do nothing if you can't, and we're all gonna have those days where we can't bring ourselves to just can't quite get there today, like, so don't just be here. Just don't go down here, it's like, so.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that. I thought it was
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. It's great.
So to tag along with that, I did have one of those days where I walked into a store and I was not in a happy mood. And through my mask, through my eyes, a guy could tell I was not happy. He goes, you could smile every once in a while. And of course, I've got my mask on. And I'm like, how can he tell I'm not smiling? And he knew just through my eyes that I wasn't in a good mood. And from there on, I kid you not, I smile more behind my mask anytime I see anybody. Because I didn't like being seen that way, even just through my eyes. I didn't like that he saw me that way. Even though I thought I could hide behind my mask, I really couldn't.
Yeah.
He knew it. And everybody else in the store knew it, I'm sure. And so, yeah, it is important.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, it's not necessarily bad to call somebody out, I mean, I don't think we do enough of that either. And I don't mean necessarily to make them feel guilty, but, are you okay? Like, what, like,
yeah,
you seem, like, what's going on? Like, I mean, even if they don't tell you, just the ask sometimes means worlds to people, like, especially right now. I mean, so, and while I know I did say it's nice to see all your faces without the mask. One interesting thing I've noticed, I'm sure you all have too, that we are wearing masks, is that old saying, I forget what it is, something like the windows or the eyes to the soul or whatever. Boy, like, you can really see the truth in that now. Like, I'm learning
through their eyes.
Yeah, I'm learning to see so much in people's eyes, like, because it's all I can see. And especially now with winter, we're wearing our winter hats and, like, so it's like, this is literally all you're seeing, and but yeah, I mean, our faces say a lot, even if we're not meaning for them to. So, yeah.
I've noticed, I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but it's sort of like bowing is kind of coming to America now, because you can't shake hands, you can't hug, you can't smile.
Mm.
And I've noticed even like cashiers, the kind of like, it's more than a nod.
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting, yeah. Which
Yeah.
I think is kind of cool. It's a little bit humbling. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a funny side effect of wearing masks all the time.
Well, I've been saying a lot, and poor Jackie, she gets to listen to all my ideas about what should be happening in schools and blah, 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 and in the world. But, you know, it's interesting. I think this time right now, it is difficult. I'm not diminishing the difficulty of the time right now, but I do think there is some real opportunity here right now. With everything that's happening, if we can see it that way, and I hope that we take it, you know, to kind of learn maybe a few different ways of being and understanding one another, and yeah, it's interesting, and living our lives, you know. I mean, just the whole telecommuting thing. I mean, that some people, if you're fortunate enough to be able to do that, you know, even if you could do a hybrid thing, I mean, how much better for us that is, like, than being at some job 60 hours a week. And, you know, I love what I do here for sure, but like, I need the space to kind of cultivate me and my heart, my happiness, my compassion, you know, like, so, yeah, so I think there's a lot of opportunities right now that it's not all bad. So,
I just
anyone
want
else?
to comment about the bit about bowing. This was a number of years ago. I had a girl visiting us from Costa Rica, and my father-in-law, of course, didn't speak Spanish, and another elderly gentleman that lived nearby didn't speak Spanish, but they wanted to acknowledge her. And this was still in the days when men wore hats, and both these men tipped their hat to the lady. And she was so excited, just, you know, tipping their hat, because, you know, they couldn't shake her hand. They didn't know how to say hello or anything. So they just took off their hat, tipped their hat. She thought that was just about the most wonderful thing. So
Oh,
I'm going to tip my hat next time.
wow. It's nice to hear you, Alice.
Well, good to see you.
Yeah.
You, Kim.
I love hearing your voice, Alice. Thanks for coming.
Well, does anyone else have anything, or
Dawn, I had a question that maybe would be a nice prompt for the group about playfulness. I am also a teacher, which seems to be the dominating situation in the group tonight, but I had an opportunity I was asked to sub in for kindergarten recess the other day, and I spent a full 30 minutes playing The Floor is Lava. And they were the fastest 30 minutes of my life. Like, the teacher told us that it was time to go back in, and I was genuinely disappointed about having to go in from recess because I was having so much fun. But I started to think about where else in my adult life do I have opportunities to lose myself for 30 minutes in something completely ridiculous, you know? And so I guess that's rather a question for the group is, do you have a place in your life, in your adult life, where you have an opportunity to be playful or joyful without a time limit or with a time limit right now?
Jenny and I like to do dance parties.
oh, yes.
Have a dance party on my birthday.
Oh, yeah. Me too. That's awesome. Anybody else want to share? It could be helpful if you share something. It could be helpful for somebody else who's struggling. Christine, I know you have some things up your sleeve.
Yeah, I can always talk. So first I want to say thank you to everybody for sharing, and you've really helped me and this has been really fun. My name's Christine. This is my partner, Renee, and we're in New Jersey. And you call her Dawn, but I call her Shaba. So HB Shaba, that was amazing. Thank you for, I learned a lot, you know, and it's one thing that I thought about was, well, one thing I always think is everybody's so much happier than me. I just think that they are. And I do kind of, when you were talking about like unhappiness as that it can like be your bias or like your default setting, that my whole life I feel like it's been that way. And I have I guess I always thought that happiness was kind of promised to you, like you're just going to get happy, and that everybody else was happy and I wasn't. And what you spoke about and what I learned the hard way about 13 years ago was that you really have to work for your own happiness. It is something that you have to like be an active participant in, and that you have to be mindful of your thoughts, and then you have to be mindful of the way that you're presenting yourself to other people, and that you're, you know, that you matter, and, you know, you cast a shadow and you affect others. And definitely when I'm more conscious of that, like I'm having a much better experience on this planet than when I'm not. And I want another thing that you had mentioned was giving. And for me, like giving is a really important part of the equation, because I always, like I said, like I just kind of have always sort of like been just like gone into the darkness for some reason. And although like I have a fantastic sense of humor and I attract people that are funny, I can hide behind comedy too in a way. And when I'm focusing on what I'm getting, and sometimes it's like, it's not even like getting good stuff. It could be like getting fired or getting talked about behind my back or getting punched in the face or like anything like things like that. It's not like good stuff. Not that my partner punches me in the face, but like, you know, it's not good stuff. It's bad stuff. So if I shift my focus into giving and to being of service, it's like a totally different ball game. Like it's a total like game changer for me. Like what can I give in this moment right now? Can I be helpful? Can I give you a smile? Can I give you a wink? Can I help you? Can I ask you if you need help? Like even if you don't need anything, just letting somebody know that like you're there, you've got their back. And so those are things that like I was really thinking about when you I just really thank you for reminding me of all of that. Because yeah, we both, Renee and I actually both we do have corporate jobs, and we are working from home right now, and I'm an event planner and I have to do Zoom meetings, and it can be very isolating, you know, and very like we're really incubating in our own like bubbles. And there's a way, you know, so yeah, can be very vacuum like, and can be very like a self vacuum, like you can like suffocate in with self. So
yeah,
that was all like really good stuff. And then to answer the other question, I like to put on some sweet karaoke jams and do have a karaoke party to myself. And I also dance with my cat. So Jenny, I know you guys get to dance together. Renee and I dance also, but Lucky is really, really good dancer. So we dance. That's it. Wow, I feel like I babbled.
Thanks for sharing.
You asked for it. You shouldn't have called them.
I shouldn't have. I couldn't get the mute button to work. No.
I heard you like, okay. And happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Love you.
Love you
Hey.
too.
Oh,
Go
I wanted
ahead.
to follow up. I'm a sucker for a good dance party too. No
Yeah.
time limit. Just put the music on and just have a good time.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to circle back to, I think Shannon had said something about someone reading her expression just through her eyes. I had learned that you can actually feel or tell people's like demeanor and how they're feeling from up to 10 feet away, almost like you can read their heart through their body language. And I thought that was a really cool cool thing that I had learned, and I went to study it a little bit. I think it was through heartmath.org. And when I was studying that, I ended up in some rabbit hole of information, but then came across the TED Talk by Amy Cuddy about how you can sort of fake it till you become it. And what I learned was you can actually change your brain and how you feel with just your body language. So she was talking more about confidence and sort of doing like the power pose in order to trick your brain into being confident and whatnot. But it kind of helps with happiness too. And I know I've experienced that through some tough times, noticing like I was doing the dishes one day and my face is in a plate and I'm crying. And then I was like, all right, let's fix our body language and see if that makes a difference in how I feel. And it absolutely does. I don't know if you can speak any more on that, but I kind of think the way we present ourselves can affect our brain and therefore our happiness.
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak directly to the heart math stuff. I have heard of it. I haven't really dove into it very much, but if you don't mind and you want to type that TED Talk that you just, or the name into that chat for everybody, that would maybe in case people want to check it out. What I can speak to of that is I think, you know, what do I want to say here? Neuroplasticity or kind of being mindful of our actions or whatever, all kind of feeds into that whole idea of, thanks, Julie, that's great. Training our brains and I would venture to guess that doing things like changing your body language and, you know, things like that are kind of sly ways of getting our brain to kind of change a little bit and go, no, you are confident, you are okay here, you are like, you know, I mean, that would be my best guess as to what, you know, what's happening there, because I do know that the brain can be changed in that way, from all sorts of different techniques, and that very much makes sense to me, you know, kind of like you said, the fake it till you make it, you know, like I'm standing like this, I might not actually feel like this inside, but you don't know that by looking at, you know, like, and then eventually you kind of like, then yourself is like, oh wait, I do feel like that, you know. so I would venture to guess it's got something to do with that synaptic formation that's happening, you know, that wiring that's going on in the brain. So yeah, thanks for sharing. I wrote it down. I'll definitely check it out. Sounds like it would fit nicely with the stuff. So, well, you know, if anyone has anything else they want to say, that's great. If not, I thought maybe I would just end it with, oh, Monique, hello. I didn't know you were on here. I can't see you, but oh, there you are. That's you. I didn't realize it was you.
I know. I pulled my hair off and I put my glasses on. So
look at you all shined up.
I know. I'm sitting in the dark too, so it's just like it's crazy how fast that happened today.
Yeah, that's so nice to see you. Thanks for joining.
Nice to be here. Yeah. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah. So I thought, you know, yeah, I would just leave you with, I have the, Jackie and I keep the Action for Happiness calendars right here in the kitchen. So I thought maybe I could share with you what tomorrow's action is, and maybe we could all commit to each other that we'll at least try it and just see what happens. What do you think? Can we pinky promise everyone here? All right, let me grab the calendar.
Hey everybody, it's Dawn's birthday today. We should sing at the end of this.
What?
Sorry, I just coughed. Sorry.
What is the date today? 19th. So tomorrow is the 20th. Okay. So tomorrow is make a meal using a recipe or ingredient you've not tried before. Doable? Or I'll give you one more so that you have a choice. learn a new skill from a friend, or share one of yours with them. I think that's those, you can pick or do both.
I was going to mention that my happiness thing is baking lately. It's a mundane thing that I used to think of, but now that we're in quarantine, etc., isolation, I really find it fun, which I didn't find it before. I've been, I like to bake cookies for my simple pleasure. So yeah, I'll cook something tomorrow for sure.
Nice. Yeah.
Cooking is very therapeutic.
Mhm.
We've sort of on that same line of pick a ingredient you haven't used. I've been trying a recipe from different countries every week. So we just picked, like, we got a list of countries and just randomly picked numbers. So whatever number someone shouts out, that's the country we have to do. So we ended up with like, what's on my calendar? Like Tajikistan, Burkina Faso. It's been very interesting.
Wow.
See how
creative
you can't travel.
That's great.